Firstly, thank you to everyone for joining us today. We're super excited to chat to you about why we think our voice of the customer is better than yours. We've got lots of great content to share with you guys, and if we do have some time at the end for Q&A, we will definitely answer your questions. For the meantime, if you have any questions throughout, pop them in the chat. Renee, who is our moderator, will be moving all these questions to the Rosefield Slack. So we'll continue the conversation there if we don't have time. But pretty much, let's get started. So just to quickly introduce ourselves, my name is Anna and I'm a UX researcher here at Dovetail. My role here is pretty cool because I get to interview and usability test on researchers like you. My role is also awesome because I work within product across our analysis, repository, and people product, but I also work really closely with marketing and revenue. So it's a really multifaceted role. It's challenging, it's fun, and I love how much collaboration is involved. And joining me, I've also got Emily.
Hey everyone. So I'm Emily. I'm the inbound customer specialist at Dovetail, which is just a fancy title for customer support and relations at this time. My background is mainly in hospitality, and I'm really passionate about bringing the human into the company culture, and making people really empathetic to our customers at any level.
Thanks, Em. So just quickly going through what we're going through today, we're going to kick off with the powerful relationship between support and research, i.e. Emily and myself, our definition of the voice of the customer, how we actually bring the process and the logistics of all the high volume feedback we have to key insights to share with our team, the impact of the voice customer at Dovetail, and just lastly, how to kickstart the voice of the customer with your team.
So, to get us started, we're a little bit curious. How many of you currently work with your customer facing teams during any sort of research process that you guys may be doing, any projects? Do you guys think this is important? You can drop any answers that you may have in the chat now. But basically, at Dovetail, and as you will learn from this talk, we think it's really important that we work together. So for some background on Dovetail itself, it's a startup that provides software for storing and analyzing user research and customer feedback. And quoted directly from our marketing website, it's where customer research lives. And as a startup, we're new to storing and collating our own customer research, and ironically didn't yet have a way to manage storage, like support tickets and feedback that we had received, despite our own software providing a way for us to do this. I've had experience being on the front lines of support and in a range of different industries, and I'm highly aware of the understanding gap that exists between team members who do talk to customers every day and team members who don't. So when I started at Dovetail in May, I thought it would be really important to start closing this gap by collating monthly themes and start sharing these out to the wider team as a resource that would allow them to learn and become closest to the customer and really learn and hear what they really care about and what they're saying to us. At first, it was actually a really manual process, as I used Notion as a main source of reporting on these. So it was a lot of copy and pasting directly from all the different channels that people reach out to us in. But very shortly down the track, we kind of realized that it's very time consuming. And to be honest, it was really hard to make people care about the work that I was putting on a Notion page. And I wanted to figure out a way to kind of make it a little bit more engaging. So becoming more familiar with our own product and the discipline of research in general, I thought, why am I not using our own tool for this? So I started sharing and storing all of our research or all of the data that we received in support and creating a story about what we're hearing in support and shared that out with the team. But not only did we have customers reaching out to us in support, we also had all of these different feedback channels through Slack, through our app that were left unmanned. And thankfully, Anna joined us very shortly in September, later in 2021.
Yeah, so I joined in September. I was super excited to join a startup and a product that I was actually using before I even joined at Dovetail. And one really, really cool thing that I noticed was we have such an active Slack community who are so open to sharing us feedback. They're super honest, which we appreciate. But one kind of big problem I noticed that we had so much feedback. We had feedback from Slack, we had feedback in product from our marketing website, and also our network reaching out to us. So at that stage, I was kind of like, where is this information getting stored? How's this feedback being digested by the team? Is anyone actually reading this feedback? So at that stage was where I realized, you know what? I had my light bulb moment. We need to capture this feedback. We need to store it in Dovetail. And in October 2021 was when Emily and I actually started collaborating. We thought it was really important for us to firstly start defining what the voice of the customer was, because we felt like at this stage, Emily was focusing on support feedback. I was focusing on product related feedback, but we really thought that we needed to create that bridge so we can create a holistic voice of the customer. So that was really exciting to have Emily on our team, us working together and collaborating, because I felt like at that point we're kind of working on our own things and we're like, you know what, I think it's important to bridge this feedback together. So in October, we released our firstly monthly Voice of the Customer report, which we call Stories in Dovetail. And today we're still continuing to share that. We share a Voice of the Customer story with our team every month, but we also do a quarterly summary. The quarterly summary is great because we can look back at, let's say, Q4 last year. What have we learned in that month? There's 3 months, sorry, in terms of feedback. What have we achieved? Have we implemented anything? Have we changed anything? And as you know, end of last year wasn't too long ago, so we're still evaluating our voice of customer process, but we can definitely see already how important this is, not only to us, but to the advocates for customers that are sharing such amazing feedback. And we also would love to get our team's feedback on this, and we do ask them every month to make sure that we can improve this process and make the voice of the customer as useful as possible.
So, at the start of all this, being someone who has spent most of their career speaking and supporting customers, I was definitely familiar with the voices of our customers as something as I would that I would just hear every single day. But I never really knew how to capture what I had been hearing in my role in order to drive impact or implement any change. And this is whether it was just change in my personal role or those higher up in the organization chart. So at first, Anna and I did some exploration into how other companies, including Zendesk and Delighted, what they focus on and work with customer feedback and how they defined their voice of the customer. And we use these definitions as some sort of inspiration to kind of create our own process, but we felt that it didn't really capture what we needed at Dovetail. And with this, we realized that everyone kind of has a different definition of the voice of customer, and that it's really important that we define our own in order to make it relevant to us. So from this, we defined our voice of the customer. So this is our definition here. We wanted it to focus on what was important to us in our roles, to our company, and the work that we're doing, and also where we want to be. As we have multiple channels and different touch points where our customers engage with us, we wanted to make sure that we have this wider view and that the customer is holistically represented to become a main driver behind decisions. So how did we come about creating this definition?
So we thought it was really important for us to really define the voice of the customer before we get started with process, before we get started with logistics. So what we wanted to really focus on in this definition was our why and then our how. So defining the voice of the customer, like Emily mentioned, we did desktop research, looked at companies that we were inspired by, and used that as inspiration. We had a really great Fig Jam brainstorming session with Emily, myself, and our design lead, Lucy. Here we also mapped out why we wanted to start the voice of the customer. So our why was, one, we wanted to make sure that all this amazing feedback is captured in one place, and that place being Dovetail. But two, we felt like there were team members who aren't as customer facing as us, who are able to connect with the customer better and empathize with the customer. So those two key things were really, really important to us in defining our voice of the customer. And from there, we started our how. So projects, Emily and I have two separate research projects. Emily's one, as mentioned, is more focused on support, marketing, and sales feedback, with my project more focused on product related feedback. So think design feedback, feature requests, usability issues, bugs. From there, we create our reports, which we call stories, which we share on a monthly basis. And yeah, like I mentioned, it's really important for us to really share that with the team because there are roles, like for example, engineers who don't get to interact as much as customers as we do. And as this process is very new, we're always evolving. Our definition is going to be evolving, but also our process. And we're always going to continue to evaluate what influence do we have on a team and what impact do we have on a team with these monthly and quarterly stories that we're sharing out.
So at Dovetail, we're incredibly lucky to have a really engaged community of customers who love a good chat. Shout out to Robin. We can see you here. Thank you for joining us. They really understand the importance of feedback to make necessary changes, to drive innovation and really make an impact in the decision-making process. And so at Dovetail, currently we engage with our customers through various different channels. So our first tool that we use is for any emails that we receive them in a shared inbox or through our online inquiry form. These include anything from general support, communication, sales, customer success, or any engineering problems that may need to be resolved. We also have our Slack community, which I mentioned before. So we have a public Slack community that has various different channels dedicated to support, design feedback, and feature requests. So everything that lands in there from our customers actually goes into our project in Dovetail. In the actual application itself, we have a give feedback button that's scattered throughout the product, which is a really quick way of people being able to, for us to be able to get our customers to give us their quick thoughts on anything that kind of is they're experiencing in real time. And we also use Delighted. So Delighted captures all of our NPS responses. And yes, we know NPS is a little bit controversial. We do get a few comments in our NPS responses, sometimes bad reviews solely because we use NPS, but we do really still use this channel as a way of starting a conversation, being able to capture more thoughts than what may not come through any other channel. And Anna will also reach out to anyone that's left maybe some interesting comments in there if further digging is required as well. So to streamline how we brought all this data into the Dovetail workspace, we have an automated collection of this data using Zapier. And we store this in our individual projects that Anna mentioned before. So Anna has her Voice of the Customer feedback project, and I have my support themes project. And at the moment, we have kept these projects separate as the two individual projects, mainly because there's a lot of context that can be missed by those outside the realm of support and understanding any processes that may be involved to resolve particular issues and how they arise. So that's also something that we're thinking of working through together and how to kind of gain more of a holistic understanding of how we can tackle these two issues and maybe merge the two projects together at some point. When sifting through our own data in order to create or pick out any nuggets of information or get our highlights and tags, we use both local and global taxonomies in our workspace, and we make insights that directly show and connect back to the raw data. And this is in the form of either little video snippets or text highlights. And from our projects, we basically create insights on what we see as the loudest voice coming through from our customers and pick up on any reoccurring themes that our customers have expressed to us. But to increase discoverability of our research output to our team, we can't just give them this project and make them kind of fend themselves in there. No way. Not at this time anyway. We turned all of this kind of research into stories around our work and how others can actually engage better with this.
Yeah, so when we first started this process, Emily and I had separate stories. So on the left, we have my voice of the customer story, which is focused more on product feedback. So here you can see the different blocks there. So they are the insights that Emily mentioned. They're just a collection of different either video or text highlights. From there, our team can actually go in, click, watch the interview snippets, maybe watch the whole interview if they're interested. On the right here, we've got Emily's support story for January. So you can see here, she's broken it up into more different themes with the insights underneath too. But then we thought, as we're always evolving and changing this process, why don't we collaborate together? So here is our voice of the customer story for February. And we thought it was really important to collaborate and really just bring all the support and product related feedback to one story, because one, it's going to make it easier for the team to find, but two, it's also a fun way for us to collaborate on that monthly basis. So you can see here we had the Hamilton Island theme. We were super lucky to go on a company trip in Queensland last month, and we got to go to many amazing locations there. So this is actually where our story is based on in terms of themes, different locations from the island, and then we kind of channeled the feedback into those kind of themes. We also like to make our voice of the customer stories really fun and engaging and relatable, because sometimes feedback, especially when there's a lot of frustrations and pain points for that month, it's just a nice way to bring it back to our team, make it fun, make it engaging, and yeah, just share something really beautiful that they can look at visually too. So the impact of the voice of the customer, it's something that Emily and I talk a lot about. We, of course, spend a lot of time in Dovetail, tagging, going through the feedback, watching interviews. And we're always asking ourselves, is our team reading it? Is it useful for them? Is it impacting their work? Do they feel closer to the customer? So with those questions, we want to be vulnerable for just a moment and share with you our hopes and dreams for the voice of the customer. The first one is we really want to be Dovetail influencers. So think social media influencers, they're going out there, sharing their posts, creating that content, sharing it with their audience. That's exactly what we want to do here at Dovetail. We want to be customer advocates, really represent our customers' voice from all these high volume feedback channels and really share that with the relevant team. Our next hopes and dream is listen, engage, and share. What we mean by listen is we would love for our team to actively listen. So not only are they reading, say, let's say feedback from Slack, they're engaging it with commenting to our customers, liking and sharing. Sharing is super important to us because we have multiple different products. Feedback is going to be easier digestible if it is sent to the right team as well. And of course, our last hopes and dreams is impact and action. Here, what our biggest hopes and dream, our ideal goal is, say we share feedback with the team and they're able to actually create action, whether that be a quick win, so say a quick design change to a page to make it easier to use, or something a little bit more long-term and strategic, like changing the roadmap, maybe changing the sprint. That is our ultimate hopes and dreams. And let's actually take a look at the feedback from our team. So how we actually share our voice of the customer stories is through Slack. We create a nice quick summary, tag the team. And yep, Maria, just quickly answering your question. It's just Emily and I at the moment, but we'll touch on that a little bit soon as well. So here on the left-hand side GIF, you can see that this was the first time when Emily released her monthly story before I started. We got a really great reaction from the team, which is really, really important to us to know that, one, they are reading our story. And the screenshots on the right here from our design lead and one of our PMs, I think it's just really great to hear that not only that our team are liking our stories, but they're actually finding it useful. They find it useful for their team. They find it useful for decision making. And yeah, we hope to hear more of this feedback in the future.
But we do realize that in order to create and communicate our voice to the customer, it is not all sunshine and rainbows. We don't always get the great glowing reviews or the views that we want. So for starters, we're both very new to the company, the industry, and the process of the voice of the customer itself. And there isn't really a blueprint that we've been able to draw from, even in our own areas of support and research. So it's been a lot of work to figure out how to make this work between one another and then also engage other people. We're also working for a startup, which is very stressful and always changing, very fast moving, fast paced, lots of things going on all the time, and change within the company itself is inevitable. So this is something that we've always had to keep in the back of our minds to ensure our process is flexible and adaptable to everything that is occurring around us. And lastly, looking back at the impact of our voice of the customer process so far, we've realized we need to evolve this ongoing to ensure it is even more collaborative and cross-functional within our teams. And we want to draw in other teams, including those from engineering, those from design, those from sales, marketing, and even customer success to ensure that others feel involved and have a sense of ownership in the work as well. As if you have a sense of ownership in the work, you naturally feel more engaged with the outcome and the output itself. And deep down, we know that what we're trying to receive, or what we're trying to achieve with the voice of customer, is that it will take a village, and it is a highly collaborative and cross-functional team that we need. But we are confident that we'll get there because we want to build amazing products. We all have a sense of, we all have the shared same values, that we really want to we don't just want to make our customers satisfied, but provide an amazing experience and get those around us excited about what we're doing. And so with all this, we know this is a journey and it needs to start somewhere. So we have some tips on how you can kind of kickstart your voice of the customer process as well.
Yeah, like Emily mentioned, it's a journey. It's different. It's going to be different for all of us. This is just our journey and process so far. And like we mentioned, it's always going to be changing based on the feedback we receive from our customers, but also the feedback that we receive from our team. And we really appreciate both. So whether you are a sole researcher at your company, or maybe you've got a bigger researcher team at your company, here's a few ways we thought you could kickstart the voice of the customer. So how about starting a conversation? This is how Emily and I started, and we found it really, really useful asking ourselves these 10 juicy questions. So you might recognize some of these if you jumped into FigJam. What are our hopes and dreams for the voice of the customer, which we spoke about? What are our biggest fears? But just some spicy questions as well, like who do you think is responsible? Where is the customer is actually creating noise, and how are we actively listening? So speaking of conversations, I'm actually going to quickly jump into FigJam. If you missed it, some of us are a little bit early, so we wanted to share an activity with you. So I'm just going to quickly share my screen to FigJam. Right. Cool. So Renee's just popped this link in the chat again too. Here we asked you 2 questions, which we're super curious about. If you jump in, you can see some instructions here on the left. Pretty much we've got 2 questions. Add a post-it note in the bottom middle toolbar here and add your thoughts. So first question is, who currently owns your voice of the customer? Oh, nice. You got some answers here. Emily and I are definitely going to read this after the talk, but we'd actually love to share with you our answer. So Emily and I at the moment, answering your question, Maria, we are the main leaders of our voice of the customer at Dovetail. We also have our PMs who jump into our projects regularly. So they do have customer chats on a monthly basis, weekly basis even. They're uploading their interviews, they're tagging it, they're sharing that with us. So that is who we believe currently owns. Having a quick look at some of your answers, no one working on that. That's okay. You'll get there. Fully owned by marketing. Oh, interesting. We'll talk to Renee about that. She's our moderator at the moment and she's from the marketing team. User research. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Keep adding to this. We will have this FigJam session open for 24 hours. So don't feel rushed if you don't have an answer here yet. And lastly, who do you think should share the responsibility? This was a huge one for us, and Emily and I believe that it should be everyone at Dovetail. 1, because we are actually a user research platform. 2, we would love everyone to be involved, whether that be sharing a piece of feedback they found important, or actually, uploading an interview. And we are hoping to make this process more collaborative, get the team involved, and actually show them our project, show them how our tagging taxonomy works. and perhaps also have them write part of the story for with us as well. So this is always going to be something that we strongly believe in, Emily. Anything else you want to add to who do you think should share the responsibility?
Well, hopefully the takeaway from this session is that it's a collaborative process, right? And that everyone should really be involved. It's just getting everyone involved will take a bit of work, but definitely it will be worth it in the end, really.
Yes, agreed.
So just to close us out, we know that the voice of the customer is a collaborative process. So please, 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 please come chat to us, ask us your questions, tell us why why your voice of the customer may be better than ours. Our lovely lifesaver Renee will pop a link in the chat now to the Rosenfeld Slack channel, which you can also join by the QR code that's on the screen. We hope to see you all there. And we really love that you guys joined us today. Thank you so much. We love the questions that you have given to us in the channel. We'll be answering those in the Slack. And thank you for joining us. And
Yes.
we hope you have a great weekend ahead. It's so close. It's Thursday for most of you. It's Friday for us. Sorry. But we hope that this session has been really helpful and trying to figure out different ways that you can engage a wider audience in your research.